So today we are going to be covering web to wedding, optimizing your online strategy, and we'll go into what that means in a second. But just wanted to say a massive thank you for joining us today on this quite dreary day in England. So hopefully we'll be able to bring a bit of energy and some food for thought as well as actionables to your day. So I'm going to hand over to Mark to introduce himself.
Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to everyone. Great to see so many venues joining us today. A little bit very briefly, for those who don't know me, a background on myself. I spent 15, 20 years of my early part of my career in business consultancy before setting up and running a barn venue in West Sussex called Brookfield Barn, which we did as a family for 7 years before we sold it just over a year ago. And then since then, I have joined Bridebook, and I'm very fortunate to be in the position I'm in because it's allowed me to take a bit of a step back from all the day-to-day challenges of running a venue, which I all appreciate very much, and use some of my past business experience to assess what's going on out there, what we can do to help venues more and more. I get the benefit as well of being able to spend good deals of time looking into elements with a lot of depth, speaking to the likes of Dorothy, who brings lots of marketing experiences from both event industry and outside that industry, researching best practices, looking what you're all doing, and also with Bridebook get a huge amount of couples insight in terms of what they're doing, and being able to pull that all together to hopefully provide some insight for yourselves in terms of how things can be improved. And I will also add very quickly that a lot of what we talk about today, I certainly would say that at Brookfield we didn't get right lots of elements of this, and it's nice to be able to step back, see that and look from the distance and go, actually, here's what we can do to we could have done better.
Brilliant. Thank you for being so honest as well, Mark, because I think we can all definitely improve the way of working that we're currently doing. Thanks for introducing me as well. I'm Dorothy. I'm Head of Partner Success at Bridebook, and previously I've worked with the likes of Treatwell, and I've also worked for Merlin venues as well. So the London Eye, Madame Tussauds, etc. So I get what it's like to run and jump in the craziness of a venue. So yeah, thank you so much. So today we are going to be taking you through kind of 4 main sections of this webinar, and we're going to split it up. So the first section that we're going to cover is the importance of online strategy in delivering bookings. The second area is key elements of an effective online strategy for driving bookings. And the third area is saving time through your online content. So working smarter, not harder. And then the fourth area is taking action. So how you can actually review your online strategy. And we're going to give you a tool at the end of this that will actually help you go away and assess and give you some actionables off the back of it to improve your online channels. We're going to have some polls during this as well. So once those pop up, please do take part. It'll be really interesting to see the split of what venues are doing and hopefully help to give you some insight as well. So those are going to be coming up. And of course, if you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A. We can see them and we'll be able to answer them if we have time at the end. So I will hand over. Oh no, I won't hand over to Mark because we've got something exciting to talk to you about really quickly. We've launched the Bridebook Institute recently. So when you log into Bridebook Business, you'll be able to access this hub of content. We have webinars on marketing, sales, ops, finance, hours of webinars on there. We have articles covering the content of this webinar, and we'll also be adding the scorecard that we talked to you about later for assessing your online channels to the Institute. So please check this out. We'll send you a link afterwards as well. But peruse at your leisure and hopefully you find it really useful and a great source of knowledge for your business moving forward. And now I will hand over to Mark.
Yes, no, welcome everyone. So this will be quite, I guess, we will move through a lot of stuff very quickly in this. Through this webinar, which is why the content is on the Institute as well, and there will be recording of this sent out so you can digest it at leisure. So please do bear with the high pace that we will probably move through it on. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about, what are we talking about with online strategy and why is it so important? You will all probably be aware of something like a sales funnel where you move through. Couples move through in different stages, from inquiries down to a viewing, and ultimately, as we all want, into bookings. Inquiry is very much seen by people as their starting point, and the funnel inevitably narrows as you lose couples as they move through the stages. One key thing to add onto this is that actually the funnel starts higher up to what we often perceive it as. So it starts with the initial discovery, which is where you put your marketing spend into, how you're reaching out to couples, how you're getting those eyeballs onto your venues. And couples will do an element of research as they start before they even contemplate inquiring with you. And a little bit what we've sort of learned was going on is that the couple behavior now, especially driven post-pandemic and the behaviors that happened in all our lives that changed in there, is much, much greater online research. You know, the amount of venues they're going to look at digitally, the reviews they'll read before they even make contact with you. And in terms of, you know, those behaviors, you know, we're talking about couples on average are looking at 3.5, so 3 to 4 different types of media about your venue before they will actually contact you. You know, 2 in 3 will visit your website, irrelevant of where they actually originally found you. They're going to go and look around. 1 in 3 will Google the venue name, even when they've found it, to see what they can learn, what they can do. So there's a lot more of that research going on. So going back to that sales funnel, you've got, as I talked about at the top, you've got your eyeballs coming in, and then you're moving down to your inquiries, and you will inevitably lose some. And when we talk about the effectiveness of your online strategy, which is all very grandiose terms and everything, what we're really talking about is how steep is that funnel? What does it look like? And how many couples are you losing in the process? And what's happening with that increase of couple research that's going on at the moment is, as they are doing more and more first before they actually contact you, they are moving down, more and more couples are moving further down that funnel before they will make inquiries with you, which means that first piece about how you are supporting their research is becoming increasingly important. And, oh, sorry.
Do you want me to move the slide for you?
No, yeah. So what are we talking about? So effectively, that online strategy is about making your marketing spend, that hard-earned investment you then put into other places to get that eyeballs, work a lot harder for you. So if you are losing lots of couples after they've found your venue until the inquiry, and they don't inquire to you, and you don't feel like you're getting inquiries, that first question is actually, am I being effective at converting those down? Oh, sorry, it's just been slightly slow. So your goal is really to try and steepen, and that's what those red bands coming in is. If you can steepen that funnel, so the more you get, the more that you're driving down to inquiries, it can have one of two effects. You can leave your spend similar in the amount of spend you're getting out there and drive ultimately more down through that funnel. So you should widen your bookings, or you may be able to focus a little bit more and not of that extra spend chasing those extra eyeballs, and the tail is actually focus that a bit more because you're more effective at converting through the funnel your eyeballs into the into bookings and into viewings and then into bookings. So that was a whistle-stop tour through that as a concept up front. And when people talk about we want more inquiries and driving that, it's very key to remember at the moment, this is a really increasingly competitive market space. You know, being able to step back, having moved out of being the day-to-day running, you know, we looked at a lot of the data, and since 2019, 18% of the wedding licensed venues out there, those who have applied and got wedding licenses, are new since 2019. You have, obviously, you'll all be fighting the cost inflation and, you know, all the pressures on your business finances at the moment, and that is driving more multifunctional venues to focus on the wedding revenues. More people are back in the market chasing those, and equally couples are more willing to compromise at the moment. So when we talk about optimizing this strategy, what we're talking about is 3 areas. You can look at your, for driving your inquiries, you can look at your offering, you can look at your reach, and how you are converting those people. So have you got the product right, the price right, your availability right? Are you reaching the right amount of couples and the right couples? And then what we're really going to focus on today is how do you turn those discovery elements now into actual inquiries. Dorothy.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for explaining kind of the funnel and the best way of working. We're looking to steepen that funnel. So I'm going to take you through some of the key elements of an effective online strategy for driving bookings. So what we're primarily going to be looking at is the 5 stages of the couple's decision-making journey. We're going to be focusing on the discovery of your venue. And then we're also going to be looking at empowering couples to make their choice, i.e. to inquire with you or to book a viewing and ultimately choose you as their venue. And then we're going to have a look at some calls to action as well and how you can do this better. So this is the couple's decision-making journey. So we start off with discovery, which we're going to be talking about at the moment. We know from, couple behavior and the wedding report that couples' use of mobile and apps to aid their high-level wedding planning is increasing. We're using a lot of marketplaces as a society. We've got Rightmove, we've got Airbnb, and the wedding industry is certainly going in the same direction. The stats show us that marketplaces are really common throughout everyday life. Then we have the research stage, and this is really the stage that Mark's going to expand on later and talk a lot more about. But this is the stage where couples are going off, they're looking at Instagram, they're looking at your website, they're looking on all your online channels to try and get an idea of what their wedding day could potentially look like at your venue. And they do all of this before they even contact you. So they haven't even sent an inquiry yet, and they're looking at every single channel that you have out there if you're on those channels. So there's an expectation of breadth and depth of social proof. So we're not just talking about having a presence on Instagram, we're talking about really giving them an idea for what services you can provide them and kind of how you operate and work as a venue and what you can bring to their special day. And then the next stage is contact. So a lot of, couples and people in general these days are protective of their personal details. They're less likely to fill in forms to get brochures or to give away any of their contact details up front before they've even spoken to you. So it's really important that you're kind of leaving that open for them to contact you rather than you capturing their details. And there's a preference towards online bookings of viewings. So, we've got open table, couples are, booking their evening meals and their tables online. They're probably reticent to call. So that's just a way that the world is kind of moving at the moment. And then we have considerations. So within the consideration phase, there is an increased willing to compromise from couples, which is primarily budget driven a lot with the cost of living at the moment. They're willing to look at weekdays, they're willing to compromise on some of those, I suppose, non-negotiables that have been previous. And then obviously the decision. So this is when they choose you as their venue. And at the moment, there is an interest in payment options and kind of the best way for couples to finance this. So that's the end-to-end decision journey. So we're going to be just talking about discovery at the moment. So it's really important to think about discovery and research as 2 separate things. So you've got your discovery channels, which is like Bridebook. Obviously, couples are discovering you on Bridebook. Then you've got your website. Couples might be discovering you through your SEO or your PPC. If you do that, you've got social media. You've got word of mouth with your suppliers. Organic search, which I've mentioned. You've got attendance at any wedding fairs that you go to. And then you have probably offline media, should you choose to use that as an advertiser. And really the goal of all of these different areas is to target the right couples, generate the aspiration and excitement of their special day, tick off their high-level must-haves, if that's an aesthetic outdoor area, whatever that might be, and making them want to learn more. So you really want to give them that appetite of, okay, I could really consider this venue as somewhere that I want to learn more about. And that's discovery. That is not research. That's them looking and trying to find you. So just to recap, the discovery basics. So don't overload the couple with information first up, you don't want to have words and words and words and pages. You want to make sure that they are able to research and discover in bite-sized chunks. You want to avoid repeatedly showcasing the same venue feature. Like you might have one window that is so aesthetically beautiful, you always take photos against it. But if that's the one thing you're going out there with, it will capture a very small percentage of couples and not all, all prospective couples. So vary your USPs where you can, your unique selling points, and then get key facts and services across with clear signposts on how couples can find out more, which we're going to talk more about. Key signposting is absolutely, ironically, key. So yeah, this is just a nice simple graphic that summarizes kind of key information that you can use in different formats across different channels. So already, just at a glance, you can see the ceremony capacity, you can see evening guest capacity, you can see that they do catering and the capacity for that. They have a beautiful outdoor space. There's a special moment for me and my partner with a luxurious honeymoon suite. I know there's overnight accommodation for at least some of my wedding party. So at a glance, I've already got some of those high level requirements ticked off, and I haven't even had to send an inquiry, give my details, download a brochure. It's there ready for me to want to move to that research stage after discovery. This is just touching upon something on Bridebook, a tool that will help you to get discovered. So obviously we don't want to waste time on couples that have the wrong budget, or they're looking for a bigger space than you can provide them with, or a smaller space. You might be wanting to target 2024 dates. You might be wanting to target autumn and winter, which are your quieter seasons. And it might be that Monday to Thursday is really quiet at your venue. So on Venue Pro, you can set up these different filters to make sure that couples are coming through the door that are actually aligned with the services you can provide, and then obviously aligned with their expectations as well, and ultimately save you time. And then the second thing on Bridebook to help with discovery is making sure that you have an all-star profile. So, if you're in the top 9 positions, you're likely to receive 3.5 times more inquiries. And it's paramount to make sure that you have all of these different items that give you social proof, that mean that couples aren't having to work too hard to get information about your venue, because otherwise you might lose them at the discovery stage. So having this information there and available to them is key. And I will hand back over to Mark.
Yes, no, thank you very much. So very sort of, a quick whistle stop on that discovery point. And I'm sure that you have attended webinars in the past, which have talked a lot around, what you can do to attract couples to your venue, etc. And it's very discovery focused a lot of the time. What really now the pressure is on is to really make that conversion with this greater amount of digital research that couples are doing, is actually to put more of your information out there in front of couples and drive it forward. So very much, it's about trusting what you're offering and being willing to put it out there, showcase a lot of information, because that will, not every couple, some will go lighter in the information they look before they inquire with you or look for a viewing, but more and more want to make that decision themselves, and you've got to empower them to do that. So key factors around this research phase is this should never be about what matters to you. Don't limit it to the information that you want to share with them. Look at, this is the information, all the potential information that couples may want to get from you. And don't prioritize the information you want from an interested couple. Don't be going, I want your email address, I want your phone number so I can start chasing you, I can start dealing with you. As Dorothy touched on earlier, this is something that really does drive against where couples feel comfortable in their everyday lives. Now they're very protective of their personal information. So very much giving couples what they want, and really much don't hold that information back until they make contact. 2 big reasons is, one, nowadays they may simply not make contact with you. And also lots of venues, you'll talk a lot of the times around ghosting. Someone's inquired, we send them loads of information, and then we hear back. Chances are they couldn't find that information out before, so they put that inquiry out. What they've come back doesn't match with you, with what they want exactly, and they've kind of left you behind. They're not going to come back to you, or they've already been enticed by other venues who have provided that information. They've booked viewings, and now you're down their pecking order. So when we talk about ghosting and that thing, is look at, am I actually getting that information in front of couples first, so that the couples that are making contact with me are the ones who are really, really engaged and interested. So couples as well, they're not following some nice, simple linear journey we can map out for you. they are jumping between, directories like Bridebook, Instagram, they're Googling you, they're going on your website, they're looking at your social media, Facebook and everything, and they're moving around and they'll be clicking different places, going different ways around this. They might revisit places that have already done, but often your website sits at the center of this, and it's kind of amongst your whole online portfolio. That's kind of the glue in the middle, but everything needs to be aligned around it. Just because you show your pricing through your website doesn't mean you shouldn't be signposting it from your Facebook or from your Instagram, because that might be what they're looking at that point in time. And then one of the key things, and we've touched about, is not creating these digital barriers as the couples are trying to do that. So these obstacles might be simply that you're not sharing the information they want to find out, or you are putting it behind a contact form. If you're saying inquire to download a brochure to find out more, to get through to the next stages of your information, you're putting barriers in front of those couples, and all you may do is push them back to where they came from. And that is going to just put them in front of the digital shop front of all the other venues that you are effectively competing against. So very much once you've brought them into this research phase, you want to keep them in this. You want to start them building their investment of time in them learning about your venue. They've got interested, learn more and more and more. And ultimately, what you're driving them is empowering them to move on. They don't have your expertise and experience. So they're not just going to understand by looking at a light bit of information about your venue, how their wedding is going to come together, what that really means, all these sort of depth of insight and experience you've got, which traditionally you may have passed on further down the line at viewings, etc. More and more couples want that sooner now. So sharing your insight and knowledge builds the trust with them, as this venue gets us, this venue understands what they're doing. They get more confident, and then ultimately what we're going to, and we'll talk about later, is making the right call to action from that point in time. So I'm not going to go into huge details on this one because there's lots of information, because we're actually going to go through lots of this and sort of rattle through what we mean by a lot of these areas, but what are couples really interested in. What you'll see is a big long list of different things that came out from the UK Wedding Report in terms of what couples are looking for across as they do this research and they go deeper into your venue before they make contact with you. And your aim shouldn't be just to pick a couple of the simple ones at the top and go, that's it, job done. Actually, this is about, you need to enable them to find any of this when they want to find it. So it is about putting that time and effort now into and investing that time, which traditionally I know as a wedding venue you didn't do, which is, have you sat there and reviewed your website, your media, what's on it? Have we made significant changes to reflect what couples are doing nowadays, so that we really are capturing them and giving them the information they need? And one of the things that I actually think I'm getting quite passionate almost about is actually understanding these different sort of couples' journeys and where they're at in the stage. And I used to do a lot of work with websites for media companies, on news and all sorts of other areas in the past when I was doing business consulting as well, is that actually give them that landing page for where they are in their journey. You will all have a very effective homepage, which is all about, as Dorothy's already covered, the discovery parts. That initial bit of information, get them excited, get them aspirational. That's where they want to get married, but I want to know more. But then give them a new page to go to, which then talks about, allows you to properly showcase, not just in a navigational menu at the top, but really showcase pricing, availability, facilities, offering, and say, this is where you can find out all you want to know, and present that in a nice, attractive way, rather than, as I said, just relying on a navigational menu. And point the couples from your directory listings, from your social media, to this page. If they've already found you on Bridebook, if they've already found you on Instagram, they've already discovered you. Don't send them to another discovery page, which might make them hit a back button. What you want to do is send them to a page where they go, this is lots of new, exciting information now. You're dragging them in, you're bringing them into this process now where they're going to invest that time. The more they invest, the more they'll be willing to move on to the next phase. And then one that often causes much debate, and I think is worth, and I think Dorothy's probably going to just click a little poll up so we can see it while I talk around this, which is sharing your pricing. And very much ultimately, you know, should you? And I think my answer to this is yes, 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 and yes. It is what couples want. You don't yourselves in your everyday lives look at a holiday, look at a car, look at anything and expect to see no pricing. They expect to understand their pricing. It will drive them to be willing to view. You've ticked that box. You're not putting them into a holding pattern of inquire to us and we'll let you know what our pricing is. And when you get back to us, when you get back to them, they then make the decision. They're already gone now. They're time precious couples. They want to go like this one, ticks this box. It's the right price. Right. Let's go and view that one. Target the right couples. You know, you want the couples that do have the budget for your wedding, are aligned to your budget. A lot of what you'll put out there is aspirational images. Doesn't this look brilliant? And they'll be thinking this is expensive. Actually show them what it really is, because often it's you're setting aspirations above what your pricing point is. And it's all about driving to viewings, not inquiries. We got the very traditional world of weddings. We all talk about inquiries. Actually, what we all want is viewings, and enable them to get to that stage quicker. Build trust, not barriers. Include VAT in your information. You know, a lot of couples don't have an option of putting it as a business expense and not charging VAT. So what they are paying includes VAT. So do things like that. Let them know what's included, what isn't. And everyone loves a bargain. So showing your peak prices and then your midweek off peak prices, they'll be thinking, but that's really good value if I go on that day. Let's make that compromise. And avoid those excuses. It's too complicated. Well, if it is complicated, find a way of showing the range. Find a way of giving examples. If you think other venues don't know your pricing, they do. Unless you are really putting it so far down the process that you're driving couples away, other venues would have found a way to inquire, find out of your pricing, sense check it, and everything like that. There is a bit of, if they have to ask, it's probably not the right venue to them, and some luxury venues may be at a price point where they don't want to be putting pricing online. Absolutely. And if you're down to, we like to explain our pricing because it's so complicated, again, we need to go through the process. Empower those couples to read it, understand it first. If they've got questions, they can come and ask you at the viewing, but get them on, but don't sort of go, oh no, we'll hold it back because we like to explain thing. And if you look at there on the left-hand side, the key thing is 70% our couples are looking for pricing information. And we have 60% of venues, I think it is, came out on the poll, actually know it, and 40% don't. So I think it's one of the most key things, the whole marketplace that's out there, how people live their lives. You're creating a big barrier. If you haven't got pricing, they're more likely to hit that back button. And then on a similar theme is availability. Doesn't rank as highly as pricing in terms of most couples are looking for pricing. Less do say they're looking for availability, but that will partly be because for some, they're a lot more flexible in their dates, so availability isn't a priority. The big thing with availability for me, if you're showing your availability calendar, and it really is that sort of lever that really affects people in everyday life, is that fear of missing out. If they're seeing a venue that's got lots of filled dates, they will feel we want to get in quick before those last couple of Saturdays go, before those last midweek dates we won't go. So you're creating that fear of missing out and driving that action sooner from them. It allows you to target couples for the dates you have available. And a lot of people go, but if we can get couple to the viewing, we'll be able to persuade them to change a date. Couples are willing to compromise now. You're talking about such a small percentage of people who wouldn't compromise, but if they turned up to a viewing, you could persuade them to compromise to a date. You're focusing on a very small group rather than the big group to the side who will get information out from availability. And the one thing it's too difficult to share, doesn't hold true. We used to at Brookfield, we had a parallel separate availability calendar. It took about 10 seconds to update any date to mark it as booked. It's a small effort to actually make a big impact. So those are some of the key things. What I'm going to rattle through is a few other key areas now over the next sort of 5-10 minutes that other things where you can take your research phase deeper than you probably traditionally do at the moment. So imagery is one. Typically what we've always done, as Venue is put all our images into one gallery in photoreal. What you're doing is creating noise. They're trying to find the images that really make a difference to them. So separate them up, do them by different seasons, showcase your venues in the different seasons, show what it looks like, because the people looking for the autumn wedding, that's just what they want to see. Be willing to do it by size of weddings. If there's different cultural elements, phases of the day is one that's very effective. Show those different parts of the day and different examples of that. And that could be the same images sitting across different galleries, but actually let them do that filtering for them and let them learn through that way as well, more about your venue. Real wedding shots, absolutely, but don't just go for the all singing, all dancing weddings. If you keep creating this impression that the venue only works with every bit of decor under the sun in it, you may be pushing people away from your venue. Show it with a range of budgets and styles, and don't get caught into lots and lots of couple shots. That doesn't mean a lot to these to other couples. It's nice to see, some of the features where you can get couple shots, particularly when around the grounds, etc. But as a rule of thumb, no more than 20% couple shots. Your images all make sense to you. Actually, drone footage and videos give that overview, which helps people tie it together. You understand fully where everything sits in the venue. For someone who's never visited your venue, actually give them that overview. Use video tours, use drone footage alongside your gallery to actually help tie those different places together. And one big thing is be realistic and practical in those images you choose. If you are a venue which sort of allows dogs for a very limited point of time during the ceremony, don't put a load of really cute pictures of dogs in your gallery, because what you're saying to couples isn't, we have restricted access of dogs. You're saying dogs are really welcome. If you have the most amazing install, which looked fantastic, but was a nightmare for setup, stressed everyone out during the day, couldn't get moved when it needed to, took ages to take down, do you really want to be saying to couples, look at this, do this time and time and time again? So just make that little sense check as you go through your images. Layout and space, a little example here from Gate Street Barn, similar to what I said about video tours, is give context to it all, make it fun and engaging. But then when you get down to the nitty-gritty details, is be realistic and clear about your capacities from the outset. Don't paint the picture that we can take 300 people, but actually that's only in the summer when it's really sunny and we don't actually, you need a marquee in order to get there as well. Let people know what are the sizes of the different rooms, what can be happening at different times of day. And if you have minimum numbers, be open and clear about that. Don't let them get too far down the line. It's wasting your time as well as their time. And make descriptions and floor plans meaningful. Coming back to what I said, is you have the experience and the expertise. Giving someone a blank floor space of a barn that's 16 meters by 6.5 meters means nothing to them. You've got the expertise to say, well, this is what a ceremony layout looks like on that floor plan. This is what tables, how they sit together on that floor plan. So bring it to life and do that work for the couples, and don't make them feel that you're saying, well, you do the work. Facilities, your grounds, your accommodation, your accessibilities, your, what you offer catering wise, drinks, add on and on and on. Those recommended surprises, give the couples that information, take them as deep into the research as you can, because the more you educate them while they're digesting your venue, what you offer as a venue, the deeper and deeper you take them, the more time they invest, the more willing they are then to click on that button that says, I want to go and view this venue. They are investing that time into it whilst they're sitting at home or on their lunch hour and everything. That's the point where you want to take them deeper, get them more excited. And ultimately, if it's not right for them, do you really want to be investing all that time, because they're not going to book anyway? So really, what I got back to at the beginning, which is trust your offering, trust what you offer people. And don't just talk about what you offer, it's what you can facilitate. So what's local to you, what's around you. If you have sole suppliers that you use where they have to use a particular venue decor, be open about that. showcase them, signpost, and explain why that works, why that makes a difference, why they want that instead of what they might have a different view of. And don't oversell the importance of your recommended suppliers. We all have recommended suppliers. They're people we love working with normally as venues that work very well hand in hand with us. But actually what you don't want to do is, if a particular couple have a photographer who's done a lot of their friends' weddings, they really like them, is to make out that you're very focused on your recommended suppliers. Be willing to say, you know, we enjoy working with, you know, other suppliers, you know, new suppliers, and talk about how you work with them along that journey, so they feel confident with what they want being able to happen at your wedding. And then another big one for me is frequently asked questions. And this is one where what you'll see on the left there is what a lot of venues will put as their frequently asked questions. How do we book a viewing? How much does it cost to hire? How do we reserve a date? Things like that ultimately should be really easy for them to find anyway on the website. You shouldn't need, it's not a question that the couples are asking. What the couples really want to know is, what happens if it rains? Is there enough inside space? Is there accessible access for my granddad? Is there an overnight room that he can use? You know, that band that I've always wanted, can I have them there? They're really loud. They're a 12-piece. Do you have a noise limiter? Talk them through that whole process through your FAQs. Let them find out what they want to know, rather than just going, if I put 7 FAQs on there really quickly, that's done, tick the box, move on from there. Oh, let me click on, and just an example, and it's not the best example in the world, but it's a thing, is categorize those questions, make it easy for the couple to navigate through them. And what you do is, if you start looking at, you know, the ceremony part and the questions they may have about the ceremony, you start showing them the questions they hadn't thought of, which they're interested in, and try as much as possible to use the functionality that now exists on websites and other places as well, which is to say, have your questions, click on them, expand out the answer. They can see quickly where they want to do, what they want to get to. So investing that time in the frequently asked questions has a huge impact. It was something at Brookfield we did a lot on. I would probably say we were close to 100 FAQs. We constantly evolved them every time people came in, asked questions, right, can we get that in the FAQs? The difference is, people used to come and go, we love your FAQs, they're really useful. They've turned up to a viewing and were pretty much saying, we've read everything we want to know about the venue, we want to book. Well, you haven't looked round yet. And it's like, really take them on that journey and allow them to do that if they want to do it. Last bit we're going through on this, and I appreciate I've been waffling on at you for a little while and driving it through, but is the social proof. Massive thing nowadays. You know, 37 venue reviews read on average, that is, across couples. People are doing more and more. How can you satisfy this? Well, first of all, on your website is what I would call testimonials. That's the bits that you put on your website that is about you showcasing couples actually do really like them, but like us, but they will only carry so much weight, because couples knows you have handpicked those, you have cherry picked those ones. You're not going to put one that says, yeah, it didn't really work out for us. And you know, that is your point, is put them on there, but use that to signpost to your social media, to your directory profiles, where they can find live reviews, as it were. But those you do have on your website, keep them up to date, and do that across all your media, on Instagram, you know, Facebook, if you're showcasing any. And yeah, it means a lot more if it contains a date from last year. If it says in 2012 we got married here and it was amazing, couples are going, really? And no one else since has said anything good that you wanted to put it on your website? And bring them to life. You know, if you can put a photo of the couple, I think on Bridebook you can actually potentially add a photo alongside it. You know, bring these to life. Use video testimonials. If you can get a couple to do a video testimonial, that will have a real impact. They were willing to actually, after their wedding, say how amazing it was on video. So build up that confidence. And then with the wider social proof, is presence really does matter. If they can only find you in one place to verify your reviews, they're going to feel they're not getting that. And couples are working with trusted wedding brands like Bridebook. That's what they see the market. A lot of reviews on Google, on Facebook will often be guest orientated and be dominated by guests, which actually a lot of couples they're interested in, but that's not what's really driving their social proof that they're looking for. So they go to their wedding brands, they look at those and go, what are couples saying about their experience? Spread them wide, encourage couples in different places, don't put them all in one place, and asking the same couple to review across multiple sites. It's only eroding confidence because couples are going, they've found a couple they really like who's going to give them a good review, so they've asked them to review everywhere. Couples aren't stupid, they understand what's going on. A whole webinar on its own could be done on how you manage issues proactively. Don't shy away from negative reviews and turn them around. That's for another day, without question. So a little bit summary of everything we've just rattled through, and obviously there is a lot more detail within the Institute on the articles that cover all of this. Is very much focus on what couples want, build that trust with them and target your couples, share your pricing availability, be open and honest, and actually get the right people into your sales funnel, because it will keep that really steep through your viewings and everything, because most you then talk to will come all the way through to bookings. Openly share that information. Don't put digital barriers. It's a thing of the past to have an inquiry form before I can see information or download a brochure. Couples don't want to download brochures. If the information in the brochure isn't on your website, the first question is why, because that's where they're looking for it. It's just something that evolved over time and we've just kept doing. And actually the answer is they just want to see it on the web pages or your social media even. They don't just want it on the website either. Be comprehensive and encourage that couple to invest that time, because that's ultimately will pull them through into the next phase, which is contact. And I would say very much refocus your expectations on what a contact is about. Use their language. If you've provided all this information and something that isn't covered that they really want to go to, they want to ask a question. It's not an inquiry. They want to ask a question. That's what they want to talk about. And don't hold them back. I've just touched on downloading a brochure. What does that actually achieve? That's not a great call to action. It's not really contact with you. What you want to do is get them moving along their journey with book a viewing. And I think, Dorothy, if you want to trigger a little another poll.
Yes. So
the question is are you allowing couples to book a viewing online? And Dorothy touched on it earlier. In our everyday lives now, people book their hairdressers, dentists. Are you? Is it?
Yeah, I'm just about to do it. Here we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Apologies.
So can they book a viewing online? People will now book hairdressers, your car in for a service, your dentist appointment, all of this. You don't call, you don't email, you don't do it. You just go and book it online nowadays. And I saw some reports done that tracked over time over in Ireland. I think it's by Web Dates over in Ireland, where they've done over a couple of years, the last 2-3 years. They've been tracking what percentage of couples actually want to book a viewing online. And 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, I think it was actually 2 years ago, it was 14%. It's now at 56% of couples want to book their viewing online. Click on it, do it there and then, and enabling it there and then allows them to just go ahead and do it. And we have, looking at the responses, so 38% of venues are enabling couples to book it online and 62% aren't. Couples are extremely time precious nowadays. If they can there and then organize their time, book a viewing that works, book their 2-3 viewings for the day, what they will then do is stop researching other venues. So if you're not enabling couples to do that, you're moving down that pecking order. So it's really a critical phase now to say, can you make that offering? There are things like Calendly. There's loads of tools out there, relatively cheap, simple. You can put availability. You can even gate the question slightly. So what year are you looking to get married? And if they're answering 2026 onwards, you can point them to book an open day, or if they're in the next 2 years, you can point them to booking a viewing. Lots you can do on that. Something I've really encouraged people to do, and really think about what you're driving all the time is give couples that digital information now that they can get to that point of wanting to book a viewing, and you can cut out a whole chunk of that viewing stage, of the inquiry stage, sorry. And consideration, which is more and more couples, after they have got viewings, etc., before they make the final decision, or even after they've reserved a date, will reach out to family and close friends to validate their intention. And this is where questions or compromises they haven't thought about themselves will start getting thrown to them. And it's where having your information, such as your pricing and availability, becomes increasingly critical. Because, you know, it may be the parents are going, well, look, why haven't you considered a Thursday? It's cheaper. You've got other things you want to focus your money on at the moment with your house. You know, you can then get married next year, which you really wanted. Why are you waiting on? So, yeah, and the family will still come to that day if you do that. So that information that you've provided through the research phase doubles up and really helps you for when they go away from you and make that final consideration and come back with, yeah, we're going ahead, but actually, can we switch to this date? And this is where they do want to start understanding logistics of contracts, insurance, etc. So I think, yes, that's it. So I will pass back to Dorothy to talk a little bit, touch briefly on saving some time.
Yeah, I'm literally going to spend 2 minutes on this because all of these articles are actually in the Institute. So saving time through your online content with couples who have booked, guests and suppliers. So this is all about the importance of focusing your online presence, not just on discovery, but enabling detailed research for couples, as we've spoken about. So the result of doing these things is that you're not going to have as many inbound emails, and we're not talking about the good stuff like inquiries and questions. We're just talking about the unnecessary questions that waste a lot of time. And you're not going to get as many phone calls and questions from guests and suppliers and all the people that actually you are not necessarily 100% focused on, which should ultimately be the couple. So couples who have booked, before couples book, the focus is on the information that they want. And after booking, you can guide their journey and ensure that you can deliver the best day as effectively as possible. And, you know, when you leave this information void, it only creates issues further down the line when that couple is actually working with you. So we've got a big long list of suggestions here, which you can find on the Bridebook Institute in your Bridebook business account. Then guests as well. Venues often leave it to couples to set expectations with their guests, which is absolutely fine, but there's certain things that you have information about that guests will want to know, and you can help alleviate the couples from getting bombarded with those landing pages on your website, and you can help facilitate that process through your media and use the opportunity to set expectations, which obviously alleviates you wasting your time later on, and it also hopefully makes it less stressful for the couple with the fact that they're not getting bombarded by, you know, their guests, and they have nowhere to go for those questions except you. So if you have that landing page, jobs are good, and they're not going to call you all the time and try and get that information out of you. With suppliers, the main reason for a supplier to be visiting your online channels is because they have an inquiry or booking for a wedding, so they're bringing you business. But I think that venues often give suppliers guidelines. They often give the supply guidelines to couples to pass on, not in every case, but obviously it's great to be proactive and share your kind of guidelines with suppliers online. And Mark's going to give you some examples of how you can do this in a later slide. So I've rattled through that, and it's back to you, Mark.
Yeah, so just the last little piece, because we've obviously covered a lot today, and it's, an area which people don't take a step back and don't get a chance to have a look at. What have I got online in my social media, on my website? Have I got this aligned right? So what we're trying to do is we've tried to build a little scorecard to help people on that journey. A reminder again that everything we've covered is there available on the Institute, and you're probably asking that question, how do I go about doing this? So this scorecard we've developed, just to give a little idea of it. So you'll see in the top there, just very simple questions. Have I got this? Yes, no. Some of them might be partly or not applicable. And it builds through all those questions, gets you to ask those questions of yourselves. And at the end of it, at the bottom, you'll get a health check. Where are you at? What level are you at compared to where we think, most venues are and where you need to be? So it gives you a bit of a health check with some 5 key recommended items. So based on all the information you've pulled together, that's going to prioritize those which we think will move that needle the greatest for you. So very simple tool to use. It will be available on the Institute from Monday. We're just going through all the final checks of it and checking all the algorithms we've got behind it in terms of what we're driving in terms of the recommendations. So that will be available for you just to use, download, use yourselves. One question I think we were going to pose, were we here, Dorothy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Let me. Yeah.
So on this as well, so very much that's a tool for you to go away and use. We also wanted to get your opinion on actually if we got groups of venues together to peer-to-peer review in workshops, spend an hour where you get yours reviewed by peers, they do others by filling in this thing, and then you can get the feedback yourself in terms of how do other venues perceive your thing. If you think you would be interested in that, click yes. If not, no. That's just to give you a bit of an idea of, give us an idea if that's something that would be of interest to people. And whilst you are contemplating that, a little bit just to finish on website navigation. So this is the last sort of main piece we're covering. And linking to what Dorothy said on about suppliers is here are just some examples that I've been looking at all sorts of websites, the type of things you see in terms of that navigation across the top. And what you'll see is some feel overbearing, confusing, the more you go down, you go different ones. Some go for very different pieces that don't really guide the users. Where do I go if I see eat, weep, work, party, sleep? Is that where I'm going? What do I want to do? What your navigation at that top, that little bar that sits there all the time's got to do is just help whoever has come to your site find out where they want to go quickly, and then take them to a landing page which actually can showcase that depth of information. So as a little alternative to something like this, and this is by no means right, if you had something that said weddings at X, wherever that venue might be, which is all about the discovery, then you've got something that's for couples, which is a research, takes them on, something for guests, for suppliers. So they've got places to go that says for suppliers, which is the suppliers going, this is the information I need. Interesting, most of these where you've got suppliers listed on them, that's just showcasing their recommended suppliers. Very few venues actually go, all that suppliers who want the information, where are they going to go and find it from me? Book a visit, contact us. So really take a step back, look at that navigation and going, when I arrive as a couple doing this, when I arrive as a supplier, what am I going to click on? What do I do? And if I feel lost, you're risking that button gets hit. Or in the case of a supplier or a guest, they're just going to pick up the phone or the email to you and use up your time. Dorothy.
So we've had one question from Lucy, which I'd like to quickly answer, or I'd like you to answer it, Mark, actually. But what would you suggest to do if the diary is looking quite empty? Would it put couples off that they're not that full if Lucy were to show the availability?
No, I don't feel that. And the reason I'll say this is, there's all sorts of context as to why that may be. When we started Brookfield Barn, we literally turned what was a rundown hotel into a wedding venue. And when we started with our diary, it was empty. And we put it online. And we did ask that question ourselves, Lucy, of that is do that around that. And actually, what we found was once they started booking, it kind of built this snowball where people were suddenly going, oh, lots are getting booked here. This is really happening. Lots of people are getting into it. The other thing you can do is within the diaries is you can say, this is what I'm showing in terms of the periods that I'm going to show in my diary, but you can block days out. So if you only work weekends, for example, or if you're only targeting as you're starting up Saturday weddings, then block Monday to Friday out and show that actually there's only weekends available. So there's different things you can do, but couples actually really like the idea of going to a venue when not other people haven't got married. If you're ticking their boxes, you're delivering what they want. The fact that loads of other people aren't getting married can also be an attraction as well. So it works both ways with an availability calendar. The ultimate as well is try it. You can always turn it off if you find to do it. If you're unsure of it, give it a go, because certainly at Brookfield when we did it, it hugely changed everything. We had dates on reserve, which when they came off reserve, within half an hour, people were ringing us going, we've seen it's come off reserve. Can we reserve that date, please?
Great. Thank you, Mark. So If there are any more questions, please pop them in the Q&A, because what we're going to do is we're going to answer them afterwards as well. I've got one final poll for you all, because why not? But no, we would genuinely love to hear whether or not you are likely to recommend this webinar to appear in the industry. So 10 being extremely likely, 1 being extremely unlikely. This is anonymous, but obviously I'm hoping that there are none of those. But yeah, thank you so much for joining, and please let us know if this has been useful to you. I'll just let you vote. And what we'll do is we'll send you a feedback form afterwards, so that you can give us some contextual feedback. If there's anything else in the future that you'd like to hear about, if there's anything you wanted us to expand further on in this webinar, we're all ears. And yeah, we'd just love to get your feedback on the content as well. So yeah, if everyone can just click one of the numbers, be great to hear your thoughts.
And thank you very much, everyone. It's and I hope it was of use.
There we go. And one last plug for the Institute, of course. So please, do log on to your Bridebook business. And have a look. All of the articles that we've spoken around and all of the topics we've spoken around are on the Institute, ready for you to explore. So yeah, if you have got any questions, pop them in the Q&A and we will try and answer as many as possible. Yes, you will get a recorded session of this. So I'm going to leave the webinar running just for 2 minutes and pop any questions that you've got left in the Q&A. We'll answer them after. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been great having you here.